like, I've suicide ideation since I was like 6 or 7 years old. But like, this is when I was like, is this, am I going to do this? Right. And I've actually never talked about this before.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health, a free, safe space for people to share and learn from others' experiences with mental health and addictions. I'm Todd Rennebaum, suicide attempt survivor and recovering substance abuser. Hey, have you watched the wildly popular reality dating show Love is Blind on Netflix? Because if you have, you'll know my guest, Nick Thompson. And if you haven't, you won't know him, but that's fine, because you don't need to watch the show to appreciate this episode. Nick was on season 2. He was married to a lady. Now he's speaking out about the unethical treatment of the cast. He's even started his own foundation, Unscripted Cast Advocacy Network. And he's going to talk about his life after being on the show and how it really affected mental health of him and all the rest of the casts. And Nick also has his own podcast, Eyes Wide Open. Next week, I'm speaking with Jen Varga, who has lost her son. He took his own life when he was 17, and less than 2 years later, her husband then took his own life. She's an incredibly strong lady, and I think you can learn a lot from her story. Oh, and hey, really soon, Bunny Hugs and Mental Health podcast is going to be on YouTube. There's going to be old episodes from like 80 weeks ago that's going to be on there. There's going to be some newer ones as well, so check that out soon. And also soon, there's going to be 2 episodes a week, and the second episode is going to be a little different. You'll see. Got some exciting stuff coming up with that one. So that's next week. But for now, without further ado, I give you Nick Thompson. I can't keep track of all the goddamn reality shows that Netflix is coming out with. And of course, my wife watches all of them, and I don't know what the hell's happening to any of them. And everybody's dating everybody. And
so she must be watching The Ultimatum.
She just finished it. Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
I thought it was the most boring thing I ever saw.
Well, the horrible thing about that is they are not telling these couples what they're getting into. So I've talked to people from both season 1 and Ultimatum Queer Love, and they tell them this is a psychology-based couples relationship show that we use, proven psychological methods to help you and your partner determine whether or not you want to get married. And then they get there and they separate them and make them go live in other relationships to see if they want that new relationship or to come back to the old one. What relationship is going to survive that? Maybe a new one could, but like you're going to go have a full relationship on the world stage and then come back to the person that you came with, and you didn't even know any of this was the premise of the show. I mean, it's just it's awful. I would if I showed up to that, I probably would like go scorched earth, which I'm already doing, but
yeah. Well, I imagine they must. So there's like 4 couples on the show. They must have like 10 couples ready to go, because I'm assuming like 7 of them are like, eat shit, we're out of here. Unless they sign something saying they can't, or who knows.
They do. You have to sign. You sign a waiver. I'd imagine. I didn't actually see. We have a copy of the Ultimatum contract at my foundation, but I haven't read it yet. But I know in mine for Love is Blind, it's the same production company. There's a $50,000 damages fee that if you leave without a producer's permission, you're required to pay them.
Oh my God. Because people have left Love is Blind.
Yeah.
And they paid? Or is that just an empty threat, I wonder?
I think it's a little bit of an empty threat. But if you think about it, like they are paying, let's just say you got all these... maybe $1 million. I say $1 million. People say that's too high. So let's say $500,000 a day to produce the show. And you get, 3-4 weeks or episodes in with a couple, the whole audience is invested, right? So if you're not going to continue on, like I can understand that. But at the same time, people don't sign up to be treated the way that they're treated on these shows. So it's a double-edged sword. And that's why, again, at the foundation, we've got some stuff in the the legal department that we're working on to figure out what parts of these contracts are actually enforceable, because it turns out a lot of it isn't.
They just put it in there to scare you or to so you don't.
Exactly. And it did. It worked.
Is a lot of the stuff fine print?
The whole contract's fine print.
Is it? Yeah, I guess.
The only thing you really know, the only thing that I really knew going in was that we were going to do 3 weeks completely off the grid. We were going to do, and then you get there and you find out there's this, the more detailed schedule, but you do 2 weeks in the pods. And then if you get engaged and you see each other and you like each other, then you go to, a tropical vacation, which originally was going to be Costa Rica, but then COVID outbreak in Costa Rica. So Costa Rica. So, last minute we had to go to Mexico. And for 3 weeks, you're going to be off the grid. You have to give up your phone. All of that. And then if you're engaged and you survive Mexico, let's just say, then they come back and film you with your friends and family and all this other stuff, which you think is going to be this, documentary crew walking around. That's not the case. Everything is pretty much templatized and storyboarded clearly ahead of time before you get there.
So I did see a video. Well, the video I saw that got me to reach out to you, it was on TikTok, but I don't know where you originally posted it. You were talking about a fight you had with your fiance, or were you married? Yeah, your fiance, and how it was all like they manipulated the whole situation.
Oh yeah, we had a few of those. There was one where we were in Mexico and she had a panic attack while I was away at the party that she wasn't allowed to go to because of COVID protocols. Long story short, that was BS too, because when I got back from that party, which they really kind of really encouraged me to go there and us to separate for that, a couple of hours. And she had a panic attack while I was away, kind of everything sinking in. A whole hell of a lot happened the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. Plus you're sick.
Plus she was feeling better by that point. It was just a stomach bug, which, you get if you look at the water the wrong way in Mexico, you start to get sick. So that was one time. And I came back and they didn't tell me she had a panic attack. And they're like, just go in there and film. She's not mic'd. So say close to her so we can pick up the sound. And I didn't know. And so we got in this fight that wasn't really about us. And it was more about the situation and her being on edge and me not knowing what was going on and feeling and so it was this whole thing. And then there was another time they just kept trying to get us to fight about stuff all the time. And there was another time where we were in costumes and it was the most tongue-in-cheek conversation you can imagine. And they just chop it up in a way and use footage that's not in context and add dramatic music. And it just seems like we're fighting about this stuff in costumes. And it's just ridiculous, some of the stuff they pull. But there are people, I've talked to so many people at this point. There are people that have had some of the worst things imaginable happen to them. And it's not my story to tell, but I'm talking, things like sexual assault, physical abuse. There's obviously emotional abuse from partners in these dating shows. There's abuse from the production side of things as well. I've heard people have gotten hooked on prescription drugs that were given to them from producers. I've heard, I've heard unbelievable amounts of horrific stories. I had someone on my podcast, was it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now, and her name's Stephanie. She was from 90 Day Fiance, and she got attacked by bugs while they were in Belize. And she started having allergic reactions and having all the bumps and her face was swelling up. They made her film, and then in the editing made it look like she was drunk. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So these stories are just horrendous that you hear. And for every bad story that you hear, there's 10, 20, 30, 40, maybe more people behind them scared of the NDAs to speak their truth.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I was going to go on a reality show, I would know that, okay, they're going to edit shit to make it look whatever, but it's when they actually fuck with you. That's when it's no. Whatever, make me look like an idiot or make it look more dramatic than it actually was or whatever. I expect that, but it's when they start yeah, really fucking with you.
Yeah.
And
Well, and that's
sometimes
the
it's even
thing.
the crew too. Like it's not just,
Oh, 100%.
yeah.
They're all there to do a job. They're all getting together, storyboarding your day, storyboarding your experience, getting the storyline that they want. And the funny thing is that you say about, it can be edited, all this stuff. So I go into, reading this contract, and it literally says we can misrepresent you, we can defame you, you will be subject to public ridicule, and you have no recourse. So that's essentially a giant run-on paragraph and like page 19 of 30 or something like that. And I read the whole contract and I went through it and well, I have character. I operate within my values. Like I was open to them. I'm like, you're not going to manipulate me. I won't be saying things and doing things that I wouldn't say and do in real life. And I just want you to understand that I may not be what you're looking for a reality TV show. And I can honestly say, like, I was within, I don't regret anything I didn't say or do anything, and I didn't get a bad edit, but there were definitely moments that were like edited together from different scenes or different conversations, and stuff was left out and all sorts of things like that. But, when I see what's happened to other people, even on my season, like getting the villain edit, and it's
Yeah.
like, it's just brutal. There's so much manipulation. They're getting you to do and say things that you're only saying and doing because you're exhausted, you're hungry, you're thirsty, and you can't leave. So it's it's a very, very, like a prisoner. It's a very intense experience. And I've talked to people too who have gotten the villain edit, and, it ruins their lives. Like it just literally just ruins their lives. And you don't have any recourse, at least not yet. But the reality is there is nothing in these contracts that stops them or stops you from suing them for defamation. And I think that's something that's really important to get out there to some of these people whose lives have just been completely disrupted because they got a defaming edit.
Mm-hmm. And that's what your organization is about, is mental health support and legal support.
Correct. So we want to help make sure people understand the contracts that they're getting into, have access to mental health support. Although we did just hear today, Love is Blind season 5 coming out in a few weeks here, that they offered them 6 months to 12 months therapy post show airing to every cast member. So I think that's a hell of a step in the right direction. Now, do they follow through on it? Because they promised us some too. It's in the contract, but they did not follow through on that at all. But that element of making sure you have mental health support before, during, and after. You have legal support before, during, and after. If you come through us in the organization, we can pair you with the resources that you need. And then additionally, it's advocating for change in the industry, and that's going to be through several levers. Ultimately, I'd like to continue moving towards a reality TV cast union, so we have collective bargaining power. That's multifaceted because there's so many different types of shows. There's so many different types of casts. There's shows, kind of like you alluded to, that maybe they have 4 couples for the ultimatum, but they've got 10 on standby. And, if that cast comes and says, hey, we're striking until you recognize our union, all of a sudden it's like, okay, bye. Here's the other couples that we have on standby. So, there's a lot of stuff. And then you've got some shows that are, like Housewives or Vanderpump Rules, where they go on and on and on, but they get extra, or they get the same cast every single time. So, they have much more negotiating power than these couples going on the ultimatum, or the 15 men and 15 women going on Love is Blind, where, you can say you don't even know who each other are until you get there. So, there's organizing challenges there. But I know and I've been working with the Teamsters, which is, the largest union organization in the world, working with SAG-AFTRA to try and figure out what a path forward would look like.
I used to be a Teamster.
Oh, yeah? For what?
I worked at an animal shelter in my local city, and our union was Teamster.
That's awesome. They're great. I actually first got connected with them because they were like, hey, we've been watching this and paying attention to this for a while, and we're kind of waiting for an opportunity to step in. And they've been, shout out to, don't want to say her name. I don't want her to get any kind of hate, but shout out to that wonderful person that DM'd me and said, hey, let's have a conversation. And she's a director at the Teamsters. So it's been, they've been great. really great. And they just got that killer UPS contract here in the States.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Like the average worker, including benefits for UPS now is going to be making like 170K a year.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah,
And
thanks.
I lost my job partially because of the show last
Really?
November. Yeah. And the interesting thing was I was like, you know what, I'm going to level up. And I did. And that's when I started, the organization. But that doesn't, there's no money in not for profits, which despite what some people on the internet might think, I'm doing it because I think we need change. And yeah, but it's not very lucrative. But that wasn't the plan, right? But like
Yeah.
leveling up looks a lot of different ways. So if you take the next few months and you're throwing yourself into this, and you're pumping out more episodes, or you're increasing your viewership, or you're able to spend time tracking down higher profile guests that are going to help you, or whatever that is. Like, dude, you level up the show. Maybe you have to go back to work because you can't pay your mortgage or your bills, but now you've established yourself as a bigger show, so you're setting yourself up for more success there, and maybe eventually being able to do that again.
That's right. Yeah. Plus I'm in therapy, so I'm not worried
That's
about anything.
I can relate to that. My therapist was like, "You're not very worried about this," and I'm like, "It'll all work out."
Well, I mean, I was worried until I started seeing a therapist, but
Yeah.
but anyway, enough about my
And
podcast.
yeah. Anyway.
Oh well,
Okay.
well, unless you have a question, no, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how long have you been in therapy? What's your experience been like?
Oh, Nick, I charge a lot of money to tell my story. um, I've been okay. So I'm a suicide attempt survivor. I'm in
Okay.
recovery. I'm almost 7 years sober. And I was just diagnosed with ADHD. So, um, I've yeah, I've ran the gamut of mental health issues um, until pretty much till I got sober about 7 years ago, and then I
Oh
started
wow. Okay.
advocating, and then COVID hit, and then got bored because I couldn't advocate. I couldn't go out and do stuff, and I used to play in bands, and I had the gear. So then I
Uh,
started. So yeah, I've been in and out of therapy for like 10 years, and medications for
yeah.
like 12 years, and whatever.
Well,
But
look at your resilience to not. That's the thing with COVID. A lot of people who had worked so hard, I mean, myself included, at some point, to sort of manage their depression or their mental illness. Everything you did to put structure that and build a life for yourself that was working for you was just stripped away. So I think you should feel proud of that.
well, thanks. Yeah, I in some ways I loved COVID. To be honest with you, I was like, I get to stay home with the people I love the most, just do whatever. Like, but yeah, yeah. Um, so I wanted to talk about your experience coming out of the show. So it's a wacky, sexy adventure that you're in, and you're meeting people, and you're in love, and all this stuff, and everybody thinks, oh wow, that's great. Now they're a lovely couple and stuff. But like you alluded to already, like you've lost your job because of the show. You're now divorced. Like
Yeah.
this is the shit people don't see. Like other people go broke. Like yeah, it's
There was a whole article came out about all the people that have financially struggled and struggled with work,
yeah.
maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. From like not just Love Is Blind, but from all types of shows.
It was prompted by a comment that I made about how it was really difficult for me to find work. And of course the media did the media thing and made it seem they say, oh, he blames Netflix, and it's like, not true. That's not what I said. I basically said this entire experience has like impacted the life that I built for myself, and it makes it difficult to find work. Like I'm a marketing executive, and when I would go on interviews and people would recognize me after the show came out, I would end up either getting a hard no, like we just don't want that, or end up in interviews with HR that would be like, how do you handle being a public figure? What's your plan if you have like negative coverage in the media to not let it impact us? Or I had one job that I went all the way to the end for, and they said at the end, like, our brand is too young, our company's too young, and because of the nature of my role, I have to speak to customers, I have to speak to analysts, I have to be interviewed. I have to do work podcasts, work related podcasts, all of that stuff. So, it's like, well, what if you get canceled? What, like all of these things. And, how do I have an answer for what happens if I get canceled? I mean, I don't even know what you get canceled, what I would get canceled for, but it doesn't mean it isn't going to happen, because in the moment you say one thing or one stupid thing that I said on Facebook 10 years ago, and it's all of a sudden you're done. So it's like, I partially get that, but like, there's so many people, to your point, that have really suffered, just from going on there. And there's no Netflix, ABC, Bachelor Nation, Survivor, Brinks truck that comes and drops money off at your house every day because you were on the show.
Yeah. Oh, you don't get royalties or anything like that for that season?
No, you don't.
Did you get paid at all?
Yeah. On Love is Blind, you make $1,000 per week while you're filming. But
that's not a whole lot.
No, it equates to be about $7.14 an hour. And you're working 18, 20 hours a day when you're in those pods and in Mexico.
They're filming you 18 hours a day?
Yep.
I guess, yeah, because it shows you, like, they show people getting up and having coffee in the morning to going to bed at night.
Set. That's a set. That's all
pods?
performing. Yeah, that's a whole set. We actually stayed in a hotel room about 20 minutes away, so we'd be shuttled back and forth at the beginning and end of every day.
Yeah, I guess that's not... I kind of figured something like that, but you're not wrecking anything for me, but maybe
I don't want to ruin it. Don't tell your wife.
They sleep in a pod.
Sometimes you sleep in the pod whether you want to or not.
Well, yeah, that was in the last season. One of the girls fell asleep while the guy was going to propose. I don't know why that's so funny, but
yeah.
But I guess if you are sleep deprived and hungry and all this stuff, that they purposely try to. It's almost like that. What's that? They made Prisoners and the Prisoner Guards.
Yeah, Stanford prison experiment. Stanford. Yeah, our foundation's psychologist, who's our director of mental health services, references that all the time when she's talking about what this is. When she hears about it.
Wow, I'm as smart as them.
You're smart as Dr. Isabel. Yeah, she's very smart. So
she good looking?
She's married with kids, happily.
I just want to know if I'm good looking too.
Yeah.
That's okay. I don't know what I'm talking about. I should have warned you, but I could be a smart ass and just flaky.
Dude, I love a smart ass. I'm a smart ass. My mouth gets me in trouble, which is probably maybe how I will end up getting canceled. I can be very snarky.
But it's also how you leveled up. So there you go. It's a double-edged sword, like you said before. Is there one show in particular that seems to be more abusive than another that you're finding?
It's the next one I hear or talk to a castmate from, because I'm thinking like it can't get worse than Love is Blind, and then I hear, oh, someone got addicted to opioids that were given to them from the producer. Oh, somebody got raped. Oh, somebody got punched in the face by their partner.
I want to know names.
I know
you won't. I know you won't. But
yeah. But it's pretty bad, and it's across shows. And by the way, it's not just dating shows. It's competition shows. It's cooking shows. I've talked to people from like the 80s and 90s that were on talk shows that would go into a talk show and they didn't know that they were going to be DNA tested and find out their child is like, not their child, like all that stuff that you see, like they don't know that they were getting into that.
So takes care of all those kind of people.
Yeah. Anyone who's been, anyone who's been in a reality TV experience, we will try our best to help you in every way we possibly can. That's not exclusive. That's not exclusive to, Love is Blind or dating shows or the last 10 years. If you have that experience and you need support, we're here to help support you.
I feel terrible. So I talked to a guy about a year ago and he was on Married at First Sight in Australia. Mm-hmm. And don't ask me why we watched the Australian version. It's because my wife loves it. Anyway, and he was like the most hated man in Australia, like after the show. And I got a new software and I forgot to hit record. So I did this whole interview with this guy and I forgot to hit record, and then he wouldn't he didn't want to do the interview again. So anyway, my bad, lesson learned.
Oh no.
But I've been interested in this for quite a while, like
Yeah.
because it's fascinating to me. It's like, for one, it's just I like reality TV, and then it's like two, it's like, okay, what is actually happening when I'm watching the screen? Like, nah, this isn't actually happening, because you can see sometimes like the lighting changes, or they're wearing a watch and then they're not wearing a watch. It's like, that's a crappy edit right there. I noticed that. But then, yeah, when they go back home and like they're walking the streets, and or like, anyway, I can't remember. I was going somewhere
Yeah.
with a question.
You forgot to record.
Maybe there was no question. Maybe it was just me saying I've been interested.
You know what? I actually talked to someone from last season on Married at First Sight Australia. Her name's actually, it just started streaming here in the States, so you and your wife might be watching it soon. Her name's Alyssa Barmundi, and she got a villain edit and had no idea that was coming until it happened. And she had to leave Australia and come to the United States to be with her family because she couldn't leave her house. Right. And not by like, she would leave and people be snapping photos and harassing her. And when we posted the clip together of our podcast episode on Instagram,
you got
holy shit. I didn't really get it, but I saw what she was getting. And then, you know, she would share DMs and I'm like, what is wrong with these people?
Just TV.
How do they have so much hate in their heart?
God damn, I don't get it. I don't like, it's like, I like to think I'm just an average guy, and it's like, okay, it's entertaining, it's fun to watch, but like, this isn't real. This is still TV, right? Like, and if I met the person, because honestly, when I was watching that Married at First Sight Australia, you know, when we were watching, I was like, that guy's a jerk. But then I meet him on the podcast, and it's just, you know, it's like meeting a football player for a team I don't like. Like, I don't dislike him, you know, it's entertainment.
Unless it's Aaron Rodgers for me, I can be nice. Chicago Bears fan. So,
well, you don't have to worry about him for a while anyway.
I don't. I hope he retires. But anyway, that's not
I've quickly become a Lions fan.
Oh man. Well, you would enjoy half of my friend group because we're pretty evenly split between the Bears and the Lions. And we have been arguing about it all summer. And then of course the Bears got humiliated and the Lions beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And but I get it. Like the Lions, the hype is there. They look fun. They're fun to watch. They've got a good attitude, or at least it seems so.
Well, and they've sucked for 40 years. So it's like, hey, they might actually be okay. Yay, it's the underdog doing okay. But anyway.
Very good.
So anyway, when I talked to him, it was kind of like talking to a player from a rival team. It's like, okay, I realize, you know, I'm cheering for other people. I don't actually think you're a bad person. You know, I'd still like shake their hand and be like, but so it baffles me when like people would like, I guess people do that with sports too, like spit on and like, I don't know, man, but I don't get it. I still don't get it. Like,
I don't either.
Where was I going?
I guess that was one of the big things like I took away from this is how damaged people are, that they feel like that's okay. That's acceptable behavior to treat human beings that way or say something like that to a human being who you've seen on TV. That you would, by the way, 99% of the time you met this person in person, you would never say that.
Yeah, that's right. Or just how emotionally involved people get, but with watching television shows.
Right.
They're like, these are real people, man.
That's what I say to everyone. I'm like, remember, human beings first. You know, I just started comparing it to WWE, right? Like you watch WWE and you see like, okay, you know, The Rock is The Rock, but he's like an amped up version of his personality for dramatic effect. So there's like elements of him that are there, but then he's going on and doing this, you know, performance that kind of guises itself as real, even though everyone knows it's not. We need to watch reality TV the same way. Like these are amplified versions. These are semi-real, semi-truth based on actual events. And, you know, just view it through the lens of this is highly edited. This is loosely scripted, and they're trying to tell a story for entertainment purposes, not to give you a documentary view on somebody's life.
But that all aside, like to get people hooked to opioids and put them in possible rape situations. And yeah, that's yeah. I mean, and it all falls on them, right? Like the abuse from the show, plus the abuse from the public, plus their jobs, plus their finances, plus their. I'm sure families have been split up because people have been on shows, or they tell a secret,
100%.
and then everybody knows the secret. It's like Jimmy cheated on his wife, and he talked about it on that show, and so now, oh man.
Well, that's like the Vanderpump Rules. Now, I don't watch that show. I've met a couple people from the show. I've exchanged DMs. So believe it or not, I never watched reality TV. I don't know how this happened to me.
You just started.
Right. And Love is Blind is the first show I watched every episode of. I had watched one season of The Bachelor, kind of just to participate in water cooler talk at work, and a bracket that we had of who was going to win that I just totally shot in the dark to participate in. But otherwise, like, I never really watched it. I mean, you hear the stories about how manipulating it is, but I had never really watched it. So yeah, I guess I just star in it for one season.
Today's episode of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health is brought to you by Co-op. I've been a member of my local co-op, Sherwood Co-op, for, about 25 years, I think. My co-op is one of more than 150 local independent cooperative associations in more than 600 communities across Western Canada. Co-op is a different kind of business. It's not just a gas bar or a grocery store, although co-op is those things too. At its core, co-op is a group of people working together to help their neighbors and build their community. Co-op members are owners, and success is shared with everyone. Your co-op doesn't benefit one person or one corporation. Your co-op was built for everyone. Your co-op was built for your community. Learn more about co-op and find a location near you at coop.crs. One thing I've learned through my experience with mental health and addictions is you never know what you need to hear until you hear it. Make sure to rate and review on Apple, and to tell as many people as you can about the podcast so others can hear something they need to hear from one of my guests. After all, this is a free mental health service, which is a rare thing, so why not share with as many people as you can? So Vanderpump Rules, you were going to say something about them.
Oh yeah, so Vanderpump Rules, like what happened this last season with Tom Scandival and Renee was just, I mean, horrible mistakes made, but not in the privacy of your relationship or your friendship or your friend group or your family, but on the world stage. And to go through that, and I'm not justifying anyone's behaviors, they did what they did, but to go through that in the public eye with millions of people coming at you with their judgment and their hate, when you're already experiencing tremendous loss from a personal perspective. And again, like, I'm not justifying it, but to have that play out like that is just, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's like the Hunger Games.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's Running Man.
Yeah.
Of relationships.
Right.
Damn. Yeah. I mean, I can't stand that show, but my wife watches it, so I kind of knew what was going on. But you're right. It's like, I mean, people cheat all the time in all types of relationships, and they're not getting death threats when they walk outside their house.
Yeah. And, again, like I haven't had an extensive conversation with Renee. I sent her a note to let her know that if she needs help, we've got it at the foundation, anything she needs. But to know that she's been public and said this, but it's her story to tell, that she had to check into a mental health facility, and who can blame her? Yeah. Right. Like all of the death threats and the hate and that coming at you when you're, I don't know exactly how old she is, but, a young person by and large, without maybe necessarily a full arsenal of support. I don't know. But even with a full support system, like I can't even, I had,
she might have mental health issues before even being on the show, and then throw that on top of it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry, I think I cut you off.
Oh no, that's okay. It's a conversation. Don't worry about it. It happens. I had, there was a Reddit thread that someone started that saw me out at brunch with a couple of friends. And one of them was a female who happened to be my friend from England, who was visiting for, a long week.
You man whore.
Yeah. So this thread started that I saw Nick at brunch with some girl that looked like, he insulted the way she looked and compared it to Danielle and said, I think this has got to be why their marriage ended. So there was this. And these things on Reddit, like I don't really understand Reddit. I spent a little bit of time on it years ago, and I was like, this is the dark web. This is not for me.
I don't
And
get it either.
yeah. And then this thing like took off and I started getting all of these horrific DMs and comments on all of my social calling me a cheater and a home wrecker. They started going after my friend. They found her on Instagram, like
What?
all of this stuff. And it's just like that's not even what happened.
We got to shut the internet down for a while.
Yeah. And Danielle actually to
Credit?
her credit actually reached out to the guy. I was like, Nick didn't cheat. Like, Nick didn't cheat on me. He's with his friend. Take this post down. Like, and so it's just brutal. It's just brutal the way people.
How was Danielle's experience with the show? Because you guys were kind of partners in crime there.
Yeah, she had a really hard time, and again, it's not my space to speak for her, but
right.
You know, we're on terms, we're on good terms right now. So, she's we've talked a lot about it together, and I'm proud of where she seems to be moving in a more positive direction. But they found every single insecurity that she had, and they just exploited it. And I think she said, every day when she would do her interviews, like they're called on the flies, where you see like you're like talking to the camera and it looks like the pods are behind you on Love is Blind. Those are called OTF, on the fly interviews. And they pull you aside and they kind of give just you and your producer asks you questions. And they would just ask her over and over, do you feel like Nick, you're worthy of Nick's love? You suffer from anxiety. Are you worried that Nick can't deal with your anxiety? Or, by the way, Nick said he doesn't know if he can deal with your anxiety. Do you think he can deal with your stuff like that? Which, by the way, I never said that. Like, I wouldn't say that, especially. And like when you experience mental health challenges, the last thing you really ever do is judge someone else for theirs, because you know what it's like to go behind closed doors and try and manage that. And as men, the society dictates it's going to be more difficult for us to even share, right? Like, you're going to hide that away. At least I know that was my experience for a long time. And so to have someone just like take that insecurity and take her anxiety and just continue to like ball it up and use it against her, it's deplorable. It's despicable. And I know she's done a lot of work. And I'm proud of her for the work she's done and the progress that she's made for herself. And you can see it, like, when I haven't seen her in a little while, but we got together a while ago, and I don't want to say she's a different person, but
you heard it here, folks. They're back together.
Don't start that rumor. That's already been started. Breaking news. But yeah, so she's done a lot of work to help herself get in a better spot.
Good. Yeah, it's. I mean, mental health shit is tough enough without the world looking at you trying to go through it.
And everyone was calling her crazy, and everyone was commenting on my stuff. She's crazy. Don't do it. Like, all of this stuff. It's, as they're seeing, and I think it ended up being like an hour and 14, hour and 17 minutes, somewhere in there, throughout all the episodes. I'm not counting after the altar. So it's like, that's not even a full movie. You think her or me or us? Come on.
Yeah, and it was all a manipulated hour.
Yeah, exactly.
I talked to Angela, I forget her last name, but she was on The Rehearsal, and it's a little different.
Okay.
It's they call it a reality docu-reality. I can't remember what it is.
Oh,
but
my gosh.
I mean, it's all
the subgenres in this genre are crazy.
Yeah. I have to say, it was a fantastic show. Like, it was hilarious, and it was meta, and it was super intelligent. But there are, people that signed on to the show that didn't know what the hell they were getting into. And she was one of them. And we had a good chat. She's actually that'll be on my next episode this coming Saturday. Is her interview.
Nice. I will listen to that.
And I gave her your contact information and stuff. So
thank you for doing that.
So we'll see if she reaches.
Maybe
out
I'll reach out to her if after I listen to the episode, so I have a little context.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, she's had some trouble too, and it was making her, the show made her look like she was really flaky and goofy and stupid it's different. It's not quite 100% reality show, but as much as I feel for her, it really was entertaining.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not trying to take away reality TV.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Like, do you tell people don't do it?
No. And do I think that there's some organizing that we're going to do where we're going to, strike some shows? Hell yeah, we are. But it's not to end reality TV. It's just to produce it ethically, where we don't ruin people's lives or destroy their mental health or bind them in an illegal NDA with fear of retaliation. Like that's not, we're dramatic people. You could probably get a very good TV show just following people around all day. I know I've got some crazy things that happen to me day to day, and I'm a low key guy. Like I'm very private. I remember even when I was filming, I'd be like, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm a private person, and my producer would always be like, you're not private anymore. Like you're going to be on global Netflix, so your days of privacy are over. Like. But I think about it and I'm like, I think we can do this better. And to be honest with you, I'm not a bitch and complain person. I'm a doer. And when I identify a problem, I want to solve it, sometimes much to my detriment in relationships when you're a fixer. But I'm not trying to end reality TV. I'm not going scorched earth. Let's destroy reality TV. I'm saying there's a problem where reality TV has escaped labor practices. They've escaped laws, and they have escaped the ethical responsibility that they have to make sure that they're not ruining people's lives for entertainment. I mean, if that's going to be the case, what kind of society are we? And I think, by and large, the public agrees with that and the majority agrees with that. But I think people don't know. But I do think we can ethically produce this. Why can't, 5 years ago, you sound like you're a bit of an NFL guy. 5 years ago, they had a team doctor that could clear whether or not a player plays with a concussion. We've learned so much about CTE and so much of the long-term damages from concussions, especially when people continue to play on them and don't heal as much as they can. Well, what do we have now? Well, the Players Association, I believe it was them, had negotiated that we want an independent neurologist on each of these teams. So if Patrick Mahomes or Jared Goff, if we want to talk Lions, gets a concussion, it's a playoff game or it's an important game, and the team doctor's like, I'm a team guy, we go on, you're fine. Now we have an independent person. It's like, no, he's not fine. And he's not going to go back and play. And he's going to be put into the concussion protocol. And he's not going to play until he's cleared by me and the team doctors. So, why can't we do something as simple as that for reality shows where we have a mental health professional on set that's independent? And maybe at some point that can be the UCAN Foundation providing that to them. And
I like it.
And then, and that's not the business model. I'm spitballing just so everyone knows, but
I still like it.
Right. But why can't we have that? So in my situation with Danielle, that therapist would work with Danielle and work with us maybe, and then decide, what, they're not going to be filming anymore until I give them that clearance. And, I've had my first panic attack almost a year ago. I've never had them before in my life. And it wiped me out for the rest of the day. I couldn't even think. I just melted into my couch and watched TV, or I might have played Madden. Ironically, it's the only video game I play, but, I might, and I can't imagine what she was feeling like in that moment. So to make her film or the next day to just act like it didn't happen, that's damaging. And why do we have these contracts that are 100% siding with these billion-dollar production companies and take away all of the rights and all of the rights to negotiate a contract, all of the rights to negotiate your salary, your residuals, and like anything like that. Like we have escaped all of that in reality TV. So I think we just need to do this better. And if I didn't think it could be done better, I wouldn't have started the organization. I wouldn't be organizing other reality cast members. I wouldn't be keeping myself in this world that is clearly not meant for me. If I didn't think that we could do this ethically and we could actually get change.
Well said. Did you practice that?
I didn't. And I actually at one point was like, I've been going on a little bit here now. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going. So I'm going to wrap this up.
See, that's reality TV. That what we just had was reality. Was your panic attack a year ago based around being on the show or anything, or did it have nothing to do with it?
No, it did. It was, I started developing. I mean, it's a mental health show. I'll get into it. I won't keep it. So when
you're not private anymore,
I'm not private anymore.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, when we were divorced, it happened very fast. Not the divorce. The divorce itself took a little bit, but the filing happened pretty fast. I had asked for a little bit of time to like reset and rethink, because let me tell you, from the moment you're on that show, there's pressure cooker after pressure cooker, right? So like you're filming pressure cooker every day, life-altering decision. Who am I going to eliminate? Are the people I'm going to eliminate me? Am I getting paired up with the people that I actually like? Am I, and then Danielle and I connected very quickly. So it's like, am I going to propose to this person? Then the next day I'm going to see her for the first time and she's going to see me. Are we going to be physically attracted to each other? Does it actually matter? Because you kind of go through it and you're like, how much does it matter? You start questioning that. And then you're in Mexico. Like, is the relationship going to be physical? Are we going to be able to spend nonstop time together? Like, that stuff is all stuff that you figure out over months in a normal relationship. And we did it in 3 weeks. And then is my family going to like her? Is her family going to like me? Are our friends going to like each of us? Are our friends going to like each other? Like, are we going to be, set up for success? And then are we going to say yes at the altar, which you're contractually bound to go to the altar. So even if you break up ahead of time, if the producers don't give you permission, you are contractually bound to be there. So are we going to say yes? And then they're just gone. And then you're like, well, when's the show coming out? And they don't tell you that. So you're just sitting there trying to do this marriage that happened in 7 weeks in this extreme situation. And, what should you move on? What should you hold off on? We initially were going to move in together right away. We were in the honeymoon phase and then realized, that might be a bit quick. Like, we should slow down and, date a little and go on dates and do all these things that we talked about doing and actually spend time with each other's friends and family, all this stuff. And then you're just sitting there waiting. Well, what's my edit going to be like? And I didn't worry about the edit, but again, I'm naive. I was so naive in this whole thing. Then it's like, okay, well, what's it going to be like when it comes out? What's it going to be like when they announce the cast? And I go from 300 something followers to 7,000 by the time I wake up the next day. And then the show comes out and then your followers go up and then the opinions start coming in and then the news articles and the press and all of this stuff starts happening. And it's just it's all just like happening so fast. And then the show comes out and then people see you're still together and then you've still got the haters, but you've got a lot of the people now are following you because they want to follow your relationship. And then, that went on for a few months and then the separation and the divorce. And so it was just the world. And one of my things in my therapeutic journey, let's just say, I realized like, I got to stop my mindset that things are happening to me and that I'm the victim, because that was my mindset for so long. Like, I have bad luck and I still joke about my bad luck and irony, but like, I don't let it define me. But it did for a long time. I started feeling that way again. I started feeling like, God, I didn't sign up for this. And I didn't want to get divorced. And I wasn't, or I shouldn't say that I wasn't ready for it. And then that happened. I hadn't told my family yet. TMZ leaked it because it's a public filing. So I wake up on a Sunday morning, 5 days after getting served in the middle of a meeting at work. And which I got, you get digitally served in COVID times. I don't know if it's always been that way, but I'm sitting there in the middle of this meeting, this team meeting, and I get this getting served over email. And then I hadn't told my family, and I had only told a couple of my friends it. And I didn't even say we were getting divorced. I said we were separated. So I wake up that Sunday and the story is already leaked, and it's all sorts of texts, DMs, emails, phone calls, mom, sisters, friends, what the hell's going on? Like, and so it was, like first thing I talked to my mom for like 2 hours and explained to her what what was going on. And it was just coming so much. And then I think it was maybe like a week later was when my friend came from England, and then the whole cheating debacle that wasn't true happened. So, there was that. And then I was, not exactly spoken accurately about in the media, which was another, news cycle run. And I remember like I woke up that next morning and like I had all the DMs, all this stuff, the text, this stuff. And I was just like, I'm physically ill. Like I had to take off of work for a few days. I had to have a friend come stay with me because probably the closest I've ever I've suicide ideation since I was like 6 or 7 years old. But like, this is when I was like, am I going to do this? Right. Mm-hmm. And I've actually never talked about this before. So, thank you for your story is making me feel more comfortable to share mine. So thank you for that. And I had a friend who
honestly
charged me 200, was it 250 an hour for therapy. So I'll Venmo you. So, I had this friend that was here from New York, and we actually were relatively new friends, and I asked her to just sit with me, like just go on a walk with me. And she was outstanding, and a shout out to her if she's listening. I was in a bad shape. And then a week later, I wake up, literally a week later, I wake up to a text from my boss, who I had gotten pretty close with, still to this day. We talked a couple of weeks ago, and he was so supportive of the whole show thing and like what I was going through. And, he's like, you need to call me. And he's like, yeah, he's like, we're doing layoffs and you're done. And I was like, oh, I'm like, okay. So like, how long? And he's like, well, you're going to go to log in on your computer at 9:00 or whenever you do this. Cause it was like 8:00, probably maybe 7:30. And it's not going to work. And he's like, and I wanted to give you a heads up, because when that goes off at 9:00 or whatever time, he's like, you're not going to have access. So he's like, I wanted to give you a heads up so you can go get anything off of your computer that you need or you want. God, I hope I'm not getting him in. Oh, he doesn't work there anymore. Whatever. It's like, God, I'm outing his humanness, but her humanity. But that was when it started. It was like, okay, I've lost my job. I've gone through a divorce. I have been, defamed in the media, and I have, this on top of this, like this innate feeling of loss, because despite what people can say or think about Danielle and my relationships, like we loved each other. Mm-hmm. And, at its core, I lost the person I thought I was going to spend my life with. And, that was just sitting in this brick in my stomach. And it was shortly after that, I don't remember what day it was, but I was outside and I started gagging. And I just like, whenever I would think about any of it, I would just start gagging and I would get lightheaded. And I would, in some instances, thankfully this only happened at home, I would have to sit down or I was going to fall and pass out. And it was shortly after that I had my first panic attack down the street from here. I was walking. I was like, I was gagging. I was like overwhelmed by all of this. And this was, like a week or so later, overwhelmed by all of this. I'm like, I got to go outside and walk. That's one of my strategies when I need to like decompress and regulate myself, is to go for a walk outside, no matter the temperature, like figure it out. And, I got down there and I just started like shaking, and my vision went kind of like, it was like going back and forth, like this. I couldn't breathe. I thought I was maybe having a heart attack. I had to sit down. I started deep breathing, which was what
I'm
know,
getting
my
anxiety listening to it because I've
yeah.
had them
Oh,
before.
I'm
I'm like,
so
oh, no,
sorry.
that's okay. It's okay.
I should have said like a trigger warning, but
No,
you
it's
know,
okay.
yeah, and it's like I had never had this before. I had seen it, I'd experienced or seen other people experience it, but like I'd never had it. You don't, and when you have it, you don't really don't know if you're gonna die. Like you feel like you might be having a heart attack and you
Yeah.
can't breathe. And I couldn't breathe. And you know, when I was explaining to my therapist the gagging, she's like, that's an anxiety thing. Like, what are you thinking about when it happens, or where are you when it happens? And so, you know, she had taught, you know, we had learned to like just do deep breathing. And so I started doing some of that stuff, but this was different. And, you know, I don't know how long it lasted. I sat down, there was, you know, like you have a tree and then you've got like a little ledge around some of them. So I
Hmm.
sat down on that and I just, it felt like 10 years. It might have been 3 minutes. I don't really know. I barely remember the rest of the day. Like I said, I got myself back home, which thank God it was only a block or two because that was, I mean, I was literally like, I don't know if I can walk home. I was exhausted, like just physically done. And, you know, I just didn't know what to do. I melted into the couch, maybe played some Madden, definitely had some wine and it was you know, it was a horrific, horrifying experience. And it knocked me out of my, I mean, for months, I would say it had me out of my like mind. Like, is it going to happen again? What do I do when it happens? Is it going to be worse? Was that the worst it'll ever be? Are they all going to be like that? I had no idea.
Man up.
Yeah, I know. Be a
Sorry.
man,
Sorry.
you a wimp. Hey,
Sorry. Sorry.
but we hear that, you know, growing up, you hear that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my story there.
Mm.
And you know, even a few months ago, I would still get like it would start up, and I think my body started building a reaction to like stop it, which is when I'd start to get lightheaded and feel like I'm gonna pass out. Or
Yeah.
you know, there were times where I would like literally kind of like stumble.
Hmm.
So you know, it's something I never really experienced anything like that in my entire life.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so complex because you can get yourself in a panic worrying about getting panic. And it's like,
Yes.
what the fuck? So it's like, it's double bad. It's like,
And then you're
I,
like manifesting it to happen because you're
yeah.
putting yourself in that heightened state of anxiety.
And when it happens, there's no like, oh, this is temporary. This will pass. That does not enter your mind. It's like, this is forever now. And
Right.
I don't know what to do. And yeah, yeah, it is the worst feeling.
It's
Um,
brutal. And I
and
feel
thank
for
you for
anybody
sharing
who's
all that.
experienced them. Yeah, yeah. You know, it's not something, again, I'm I didn't even tell anyone I suffered. No one knew I suffered from depression until like 6 years ago. I never told anyone. I hid it from everyone. And now you know, it's not easy all the time, as I'm sure you know, you experience it too. And you know, every time I do open up or share something about that, I get the be a man or worse things being said. So you know, it is hard. And any male, female, anyone, any gender, anyone out there, you know, if you experience this, like you are not alone and you can talk about it and it's okay. And I hope that that's a message that resonates. And that's a message that you know, I'm able to share my story here again because of you and the way that I feel being here talking to you.
Are we buddies now?
I think we're best friends. Did we just become best friends?
Yep. I was so excited, I almost didn't say it. I was like, oh, he's setting me up. It's that time again for that Some Bunny special segment where we chat about who cooperated in your mental health journey and help fulfill your emotional tank, brought to you by Co-op, which is here in Canada, it's gas stations and grocery stores
Gotcha.
and
Oh,
hardware and
I've
stuff.
seen them. Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to be in your darkest moments, or just a shout out to whoever you want that's been there for you or that makes you feel good, or a shout out to whoever you want.
Yeah, you know, that's a great question. I would really, I would, I kind of want to shout out to, because sometimes I rag on them in these interviews, but like I say things like, you know, my core group of friends, there's like six of us. You know, I often say things like, well, they didn't understand, or they saw it on TV and didn't take it as seriously as maybe other relationships. And I don't think that that's always fair. And my isolation, feelings of isolation, and like nobody understood or nobody could be there in the way that I wanted. But I think they did the best they could, and I don't want to say I took it for granted, because I don't take my friends for granted, but I think I should show them some gratitude for doing the best that they can in a complicated situation that they didn't have any idea how to handle or how to support me with. So, shout out to Tom, Justin, Courtney, Luis, Michelle, Evelyn, Jake. And those are the big ones.
Hmm. Well, you're only allowed one, so you're gonna have to take away 6.
Oh
No,
my
kidding.
gosh.
I'm kidding,
Okay.
Dad.
Well, I know I can take away one who's been arguing with me too much about politics lately.
Not football, politics.
Well, we got that too, but yeah.
Oh no. You disagree in politics and football? Yeah, get him out of that
tough.
friend group.
I need new friends. That's why I'm here.
I did do an episode with a mother whose daughter was on The Bachelor, Bachelor, and her daughter did take her life, actually. She did have mental health issues before the show, and it wasn't necessarily, because of the show, but
it contributes. There's no one that's coming out of these things unscathed.
Yeah, and I mean, the privacy of the family wasn't obviously not as private as it would have been, because this celebrity took their life, and now the family has to deal with media and stuff. So, I mean, it does affect it, I guess. But
and they didn't sign up for that. The family didn't sign up for that.
Yeah, especially the family didn't sign up for that, right? Like, so yeah. I mean, I just that being said, I've applied to be on shows, and I know this stuff. Man. It's there's only certain ones, because I know there's ones where I'm like, I don't want to be on that fucking that sucks. It's the fun ones like Survivor. It's like, I want to be in the jungle and fish and make a fire.
I want to go on The Floor is Lava, but I don't think I have a good relationship with Netflix anymore to do that.
Or The Circle. That one seems fine. It's like, I just get to sit in an apartment by myself and
let me tell you, and this is coming soon, I hope. I just spoke to someone on The Circle last week on his YouTube show. His name is Professor Tim White. He won The Circle in UK, and horrific story from that man. He is the nicest, sweetest man. And I just, my heart breaks hearing his story. It's awful. So I don't think any of these shows are safe. I just don't think you're taking a risk, and it's not going to impact everyone the same way, but you're taking a risk.
I don't think I would get on anyway, because they'd be like, what meds are you on? And I'd say all my mental health meds. They'd be like, yeah, we don't want you on.
They do take all that, but I think I'm of the belief now that they use it to profile you and learn how to push you. Because Danielle, if you read a little bit about Danielle, she disclosed a lot of information in her screening process, and they did it anyway.
They did it because of it, probably. It's like, she'll be.
I don't know, but I worry, right? I worry that that's what's going on. And I think
let's start our own reality show. We'll do it ethically.
I would love to. We think we could produce it ethically.
Yeah. I have no ideas of what we would do.
I know. I'm like, I don't even know. I think about it sometimes, though, because that's the thing, is like, I want to prove it can be done. And what better way to do it than have someone who's done it and knows what needs to change, at least in some cases.
And then, like you said, like, people's lives are interesting enough. And I mean, for Christ's sake, like, you can't tell me these shows aren't making huge money. Just spend
Love
a bit
Blind
more.
is the most watched reality show right now. They've watched more hours, or people have spent more time watching Love is Blind than any other show, and that includes Bachelor, Bachelorette. So it's,
for God's sake, like, just put an extra million aside for ethics, okay?
Right.
And enjoy making the show. And then you don't get sued.
Yeah. And hey, guess what? Other companies have ethics commissions. They have safety directors and all of that stuff.
Yeah. When you go into an actual set with actors, They will have a safety meeting if there's a lit candle on set.
That's all part of the SAG contract, which is why we need a reality TV union.
Or just go completely opposite, just have an AI reality show where it's just a bunch of people that are AIs.
I just saw today they are using AI to do a complete episode of Law and Order SVU. I just saw the headline today.
Not with actual people's faces, but because that's one thing actors are worried about. From
past show, yeah.
Oh no!
So they're going to use the actors. I think so. So it's like, is this a flex to say, hey, come around because we still own all of this of you? So I don't know.
It's very Black Mirror.
It's very Black Mirror. And by the way, did you watch Black Mirror this last season from a month or two ago?
I haven't watched it all, but I saw the one where they.
Did you watch Joan is Awful?
Yeah. That's very.
That was, to me. That was, and that was Netflix being like, hi, we know what we do here and we're not really sorry, but we found another way to make money off of it with this Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, they were
because even the logo was the same as Netflix. It was just like a P or something.
Yeah. So they're flexing that they can fuck people over with reality shows and use AI to fuck up actors. Oh my God.
We're living in quite a time, Todd. Quite a time.
Wait, am I in reality right now? Am I being filmed right now? Jesus. Are you AI?
Yeah.
Now, see,
I'm not AI, but I'm worrying about this edit job here.
That I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a crew of one, so I'm a very lazy editor. Thanks, Nick. You're a good pal. We've become good friends, Nick and I. But anyway, thank you so much for that. As a reality TV watcher, it's nice to know that it's not exactly ethical. I can't help but watch it, though. Ugh. Not all of it, but, I've got a couple favorites. Be sure to listen to Nick's podcast, Eyes Wide Open, anywhere that you can find podcasts. Hey, follow the podcast on Instagram, Bunny Hugs Podcast, and on Facebook, Bunny Hugs and Mental Health, and on TikTok, Bunny Hugs Podcast. I keep saying this, but it's going to happen soon. I'm going to have more contests and stuff and more chances to win some money from co-op, so stay tuned for that. And thank you to Laura Lawrence, who threw on the mental health symposium for her organization Youth Matter here in Saskatchewan. I was at Melfort, Saskatchewan yesterday, and I got to meet a whole bunch of great kids and a whole bunch of great speakers and other advocates and stuff, and we just had a really lovely time. They actually have a thing called Teen Talk Tuesdays. It's not every Tuesday, but you can go check out their website at youthmatter.ca, and you can sign up for Teen Talk Tuesdays, where people talk to teens about mental health stuff. So if you have any youths in your household, or if you know some youths, you can tell them about that. And for crying out loud, please remember to make your beds and take your meds. Bye.